So
Good
we are
evening.
back with another episode today. So today's episode is something which is going to be a little technical. So I would just give a heads up to the audience out there. So today we are basically talking about the fears which are related to math and the comorbidities that are associated with it. So guys, please pay attention for today's episode because these disorders often go undiagnosed during the school years. So it's really important to know about them. But again, I would like to give all of you a word of caution that you're not supposed to self-diagnose these disorders, as only a professional is suggested to do it. So we have our two teammates today, Rekha and Chitransh. I would like both of you to give a brief intro about yourselves so that the audience out there just knows what you guys work as. So Rekha, we begin with you.
Yeah, I'm Rekha. I'm the Business Development Executive with igebra.
Chitransh.
Yeah, I am Chitransh and I am Junior Digital Marketing Analyst working with igebra.
All right. So guys, I am Charvi. So I work as an HR psychologist. So today that's why bringing out a psychological aspect to learning of math. So firstly, I would like to tell you there's several learning disabilities and learning disorders that are there that can actually be genetic, familial, or are neurological based majorly. So we would like to shed a light upon some of them today. So first we begin with a very, very related disorder to math, and then we come to the comorbidities. So we begin with dyscalculia first, that Rekha is going to talk about and enlighten us about the same. So Rekha, could you please tell us what you think dyscalculia is?
Hi, I have done my research very recently about this thing because in our days, maybe a lot of kids had this, but it was never acknowledged. So dyscalculia is nothing but, a person's inability to do any kind of a arithmetic or a numerical operation. So they blank out when it comes to performing any kind of an arithmetic operation, and that is a medical condition. Okay, so most of the time we think that the child is not performing and we relate it to maybe he's dumb or something. It's not that. It is a malfunction. So maybe over the generations lot of children had it, but maybe because there was no research on it and none of us knew about it, we must have just isolated those children, calling them like they're dumbheads. So this is a disorder even I'm doing my research on, because so many things are coming to the front thanks to the research that's going on in this particular field.
Right. Okay, so just like Rekha mentioned, dyscalculia is where a kid has a problem in calculating, especially where it comes to operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, which are considered to be really basic, but it can be a problem for many. And we often tend to blame it on IQ or dumbness, as she said, and it often went undiagnosed since a lot of years. And that is possibly one of the reasons why we have psychologists as well as counselors in school these days, because these are something which are prominent when it comes to checking of the records of the child. We get to see in their notebooks, we get to see how they perform in the class. So it may not be just mere lack of attention, but it can be a disorder. Disorder, like the word itself means disorder, like the child is not able to perform in a desired way. So now we move on to another very, very interesting aspect that Chitransh will take us through. We are talking about comorbidities. So guys, all of you out there, I would just like to tell you what a comorbidity is. Comorbidity is something which exists with the real problem. So over here, since we spoke about dyscalculia, the comorbidity to dyscalculia is ADHD, that is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and dyslexia. These are what we are covering. There are more comorbidities to it. So I would also like you guys to research upon and let us know later in the comment section what you guys felt, because a mere negligence can actually lead to impairment of a lot of functions in the child. So it's better to take the precaution in time. So, Chitransh, let's just enlighten our audience with what is ADHD, that is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Yes, Charvi, as you mentioned that ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Actually, ADHD is one of the most common neurodevelopment disorders of childhood. Actually, it is usually find like you can usually find this kind of diagnosis in a childhood or often last into adulthood also. Like children who are having ADHD may have trouble paying attention, controlling impulsive behaviors, or you can say that may act without thinking about what the result will be. Okay, or maybe overly active. The symptoms by which we can recognize it, I would like to give a light on 3 to 4 symptoms. That is like excessive physical movement, excessive talking, interrupted conversations, acting without thinking. So like this, we can just interpret like ADHD is there or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, guys, as Chitransh has mentioned about ADHD, where he rightly said the children are very impulsive. So, the word, if you just bifurcate the word itself, you tend to understand the meaning. That is attention deficit, which is lack of attention, where the child is merely not able to concentrate in the class. So, it's not just the child is distracted, but it's a disorder in the child. Again, and the second word that he used was hyperactivity. So how do we see the hyperactivity behavior is the child often tends to keep roaming in the class, or the child is very fidgety when it comes to his or her pencil box, his or her pen or notebook. He'll keep fidgeting with it, and that is when the child is not able to sit straight and focus. So that's how we got to know about this neurological disorder, where neurodevelopmental disorder, rather, it's to do with the brain as well as the developmental stage. So that's why we call it neuro plus developmental. So that's what we learned. So the third one that I am going to talk about is dyslexia. So dyslexia will again be a club, a species of the same disorder, where there is a problem in the learning, spelling, writing of the child. So it is actually sometimes also referred to as a learning intellectual disability. But there is a lot of in depth as this disorder is there. It's not just a simple learning disorder, but it is now a different spectrum altogether, where we talk about as to how the child gets confused in similar looking numbers, in similar looking alphabets. For example, B and P, 6 and 9. When you give such alphabets and numbers to the children, they often tend to get confused, as you must have also seen in the movie Tare Zameen Par, where Darshil, that kid, was not able to concentrate on the letters, and all of them just flew around him and it all got mixed up in his head because they're not able to actually distinguish between them. Also, it's just not about learning. This can also be seen in the notebooks of the children, where they often tend to misspell words, where they write the letters which are in the opposite direction. Usually those letters which are in mirror images are more confusing, and they are not able to even speak and communicate in the class, as they don't really know what's coming in their way and everything gets puzzled in their head. Apart from that, in all of these disorders, guys, the problem is that children are not able to take a lot of instructions at one time. If you tell them to go get the notebook, then get the pen, then go to the washroom, then come back to the class, it all gets mixed up. So if you tell them slowly one by one, they might take it. But if you give them a lot of instructions at one go, they might not be able to take it. So this is what we had to offer when we talk about dyscalculia and its comorbidities. But of course, as I mentioned in the very beginning, there are a lot more comorbidities that are present, but these are the most prominent ones which often go undiagnosed. And it's our duty, it's the duty of the teachers, the counselors, the psychologists to look into them, as this is something which is related to the academics and the performance in the school, which is more observable to the school setting rather than the family setting. So yes, with this, I would also like to give and repeat my word of caution. Do not self-diagnose any of the disorders on your own. It's harmful. All of them are diagnosed based on standardized tests and academic performances which are available out there, which only a professional can withhold. So kindly do not refer to the net and look at the diagnostic criteria and diagnose yourself. Let the professional do that job, so
And
that
somehow
you're
we are lucky that, now so much research has come out. And I think this is going to help a lot of parents.
right.
This is a very important thing, especially for the future and for the kids, the next generation.
True.
I think that's a nice thing, the psychologists coming in, stepping in. It'll be a lot of help for a lot of parents. So kudos to all the psychologists.
Very true.
Right, definitely. So yes, so that was what our word of caution was to you, and our enrichment was for you guys. You can also tell us if you feel something in the comment section. If you want to share with us, we can also keep it anonymous so that we are able to outreach those children out there who need our help. Because if it goes undiagnosed, as I said, it can be hazardous later on. So Chitransh, with this, do you want to give any concluding comments?
Like, it is very important to know about the conclusions, right? The remedies, how we can overcome it. Because nowadays, what people do, they used to look over it. Like, they do not focus on it. Just they think that it is only, they start to relate it with other things. Like, suppose they are facing problems in there while understanding things, topics, but they think that they need a new tuition teacher. They need to go to the coaching center. But what they actually need, the proper attention and the guidance and what they are going through, right? So these are the things which we try to put light on these points and for the audience only, so that they can just have a knowledge about it, and also we are giving the option to give their point of view in the comment section, right? So that we can just continue with this topic, and we can just give them a more knowledge, right? So I
Right.
think
I want to add on that, our schools, especially, the schools today have that industrial way of doing things. As Sharvi mentioned, everything once you step into the classroom is instruction based. Sit down, open your book, attendance. Then you're not supposed to talk to your peers. Everything is instruction based. Maybe for a normal child and all, it's okay to take so many instructions. But
Yeah.
children with these kind of disorders, especially you're talking about ADHD, they cannot understand instructions.
yes,
Right.
And we still follow the primitive ways of teaching, where everything, like they're preparing almost robots for the industry. There is no passion in education. There is no free will.
Yeah.
I think, with all this, people should incorporate a new way of teaching,
Correct.
inclusive of all sorts of disorders, and not isolating them.
yes.
Yes, definitely. I think that's very important, because it's just not the intellectual performance which is being deteriorated, the academic performance, but also the social performance,
Yes.
the social life of the child that gets hampered with all this. So that's why there are therapies, there are counseling sessions. So all we need to do is to break the taboos out there in the society and come out and find solutions. When I say solutions, we'll be coming out tomorrow with the interesting solutions. We do not only leave you to the disorders and scare you, but we come tomorrow again with some enriching good solutions that our team will get in front of you, so that you can also decide what path you want to walk. So that's it. Thank you so much, guys, for being here.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. See you tomorrow.